Welcome to episode 168 of the Grip Strip podcast. And there's a fight edition of the Grip Strip podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co host, the former iRacing Indy 500 champion. Since it is the month of May, it's very apropos. Uh, a computer genius, a gentleman and a scholar, and one of Jacksonville Jaguars' biggest fans. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. Of course, yeah, there was a fight this weekend at Kansas Speedway, so be lots to talk about there. And of course, Kansas and Cup race, uh, pretty exciting to watch. F1, pretty good too. So yeah, ready to get into it.
Yeah, the pretty lean weekend this past weekend. We had the Cup and trucks at Kansas Speedway, and then we had Formula One and the form what they call the Miami International Autodrome, also known as the parking lot of Hard Rock Stadium. But people show up for it, so I guess it doesn't really matter that it's a terrible racetrack and it's put on two terrible races. But yeah, that's for another, I guess, for another day, another time. But Dennis Hamlin and his horse teeth doubled up the Hamlin wrecking situation. Get breaks his winless streak by getting into Kyle Larson late in the Advent Health 400 and moved him to get his first victory. His what is now his, I think that's his 49th career Cup Series victory, eyeing Tony Stewart in the process. So credit to Denny Hamlin there. We'll also talk about the race, the truck race, which saw Grant Enfinger get his first win of 2023 in the number 23, which has a patriotic paint scheme here, I think, for this month. So good for him. Fish Lips gets another win. He had made a mistake in qualifying, started ninth, basically had no resistance through the field, running on the more optimal tire strategy. Sergio Perez was on pole, but really wasn't able to make any ground early because he was trying to maintain the medium tire. And that played a role later on when the inevitable battle happened, and Verstappen ended up going and passing him for the victory. Fred Alonso getting a podium. No signs of Taylor Swift that I've heard of. So we'll see where that's going. But that was a racing last week. We're gonna get into a lot of stuff in the roundup, though. For the main series, a roundup covers Formula E, World Superbikes, F1 Academy, if I can find info. That's literally what I wrote. And then this coming weekend, a very busy weekend, we're going to have MotoGP and Moto2 at Le Mans. IMSA returns at Laguna Seca. Rally Portugal for the World Rally Championship. Extreme E comes back after a long break in Scotland, and Indy next at the Indy Road Course, which will lead into our preview of the Indianapolis Road Course, the GMR Grand Prix, uh, the starting the month of May for the IndyCar Series, prior to, of course, the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500. We'll get into throwback triple header weekend at Darlington, first by going over the throwback schemes, the best and worst in our opinions, and who didn't even bother. And then we'll preview and make picks for all three series competing this weekend, uh, finishing off with the Goodyear 400 on Sunday for the Cup Series. Josh will talk about all things iRacing and sim in his sim segment, and we will close the deal. So yes, Dennis Hamlin uh, ended up getting the victory. We had, me and Josh brought it up prior to us getting on here, 37 lead changes amongst 12 drivers. The top nine drivers all led in this race. and then there was three other drivers that were spread through the field later on. Issues for all of them, but in the at the end of the day, the stage winners, Joey Logano won stage two, Denny Hamlin won stage one. Um, but the dominant figures in this race were Kyle Larson and Martin Truex Jr. coming off of his first win in a long time last week at Dover. Larson started second and was pretty sporty early on in the day. He had a sporty piece and then got spun by Tyler Reddick. Pissed off Larson, or as pissed as he can be, I guess, because he's basically a robot. Reddick then kind of went on after that and led for a while before Martin Truex went and Martin Truex and Denny Hamlin basically traded the lead amongst themselves. Kansas, of course, has become a Toyota benefit type of facility, but Hendrick Motorsports had a lot of speed this past weekend, um, and that was obvious in the results. Uh, Denny Hamlin did move Kyle Larson late in the race to move him on the final lap to go and get what is his 49th career Cup Series victory, the one away from that magic 50 that would put him in some. I mean, he's in great territory with a guy who used to be his teammate and Tony Stewart, but now if he can get one more through this season, he will join the great Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson at 50 career Cup Series victories, which is a pretty cool number. One that I wish Tony would have gotten, but and definitely had plenty of chances to do so over the years. But in the grand scheme of things, the bigger story than the incident amongst the two guys that are supposedly friends in Hamlin and Larson is the racing between Ross Chastain and anybody, but one move in particular, which was pretty benign for Ross Chastain standards. He was racing in a multi. I think he was in between a three wide there, and did leave room for Noah Gregson, who, for my purposes, will be called bulk cut dipshit, largely because he is one and he has a bowl cut. And he insisted on running into the wall and then in turn freaked out on Ross Chastain because he thought Ross Chastain put him in the wall. Usually that is the case. I was afraid that when I heard Larson get spun early in the race that it was him, but it was actually Tyler Reddick, making it ironic that the Denny Hamlin car spins him at the start of the race, and then Denny Hamlin himself moves Kyle Larson to end the race. So a couple of big keys there, Josh, to focus on prior. Let me just. Well, I should go through the top 10 at least. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, William Byron, who started on pole. Darrell Wallace Jr. started 17th, finished fourth. Great pit stops by his team all day yesterday. Ross Chastain finished fifth and took over the points lead. Joey Logano started sixth, finished sixth. William Clyde Elliott the second started 21st and finished seventh. Martin Truex Jr. eighth. Tyler Reddick ninth, and Bald Spot Dillon 10th, one of his better racetracks, to be fair. Kevin Harvick, the best of the Stewart Haas cars, in 11th. There was 22 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race there on Sunday, Josh. But yeah, those two key storylines, the 23, the Denny Hamlin versus Kyle Larson piece, and then Ross Chastain versus Bull Cut D-Bag himself. I'll leave it to you which order you want to go through them because we definitely have to discuss both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, let's start off with the one that happened earlier in the race, the Ross Chastain and Ross and Noah Gregson there, and I mean, it's very similar to what happened back at Las Vegas in the fall with Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace. Remember, Larson kind of took a similar path and got tight, and Bubba challenged the position back on the outside, and got into the wall and then hooked him in the right rear, and then it was kind of the similar deal there with Ross Chastain, going through the middle and then got tight and started to drift up, but he still had gave him enough room on the top lane there for Gragson, and Gragson's just riding the momentum. It's coming down to around 70 laps to go in the race, 50 laps to go, so it's starting to get time to really challenge for position, and he's riding the top lane and he's not going to lift. They're trying to sneak back around the outside, and ran out of room there, and drifted up into the wall. So I guess in his mind it's Ross's fault there, and of course, other drivers may or may not view that the same way. And I guess he's the first one to finally confront Chastain after the race and try to get in a word and a couple of punches. Although the officials kind of didn't really let them go at it really. But I think in this instance, it really can go either way. You can say that, well, Ross, that's his style of racing, taking the spot there, and taking away really aggressively like that. And then also the other end, for Gragson, he's responsible. Ultimately, you're responsible for who you get around. And um, once Chastain got past him at the exit of, or before the exit of turn four, for Gragson, you have to make a decision whether you go back and challenge the spot going onto the front stretch off turn four, or do you back out of it and let him go and try to pass him back, on the next lap or later on there. So, for Gragson, he decided to try to challenge the spot, and ended up in the wall there, and then ends up later spinning out and finishing 5 laps down ultimately. So. I mean, Ross has been pretty aggressive. Obviously, we've seen that so far, in his career in the Cup. So yeah, I guess that type of move expected for him. And then other end, Noah, he's rookie trying to prove himself in the Cup Series, and he went up and got and tried to challenge there, and then he didn't, he I guess he had enough respect to not hook him in the right rear off of turn four, to order him a little bit there on the front stretch to let him know. But I think the real story of that is after the race, like you said, confronting me on pit road, and that's what other people have been saying in the past, that and fans and drivers alike, saying that Ross probably needs to get his butt kicked on on pit road or something after the race, and just kind of leaning towards that. Although Ross did throw the first strike and landed right there on the face, so he's got at least a somewhat decent left hook, and I'm sure Gragson was getting ready to launch one from the back 40 or whatever, trying to get there in his face, but the officials stopped him before he was able to, um, you know, make that punch. And of course, Noah's not surprising for him to confront a driver after the race. We've seen him in 2020. Remember, he got into it after Kentucky with Harrison Burton. They had a pretty good spat there. Then, of course, 21 with Daniel Hemrick post race at Atlanta on pit road. They had a little confrontation there. So, and he does have history also with Chastain, of course. Talladega, they had their issues there 2 weeks ago, where um, Chastain split him in the middle on the one of the final restarts, and ended up taking out Gragson. So clearly there's a little bit of love lost there. So I think yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they progress forward. And if anybody's willing to continue to challenge Chastain, of course, on the other end, my hot take last week with Chastain, what I was trying to convey there was that, for Chastain, he has to really just embrace the villain role at this point. Just put on the black hat, be the heel. But the problem is I think he's just too nice, at least going, presenting himself too nice, and or trying to say the right things and everything. But just embrace the villain role, and you know be the heel. Because I think driving wise, I think he's got it down. being the aggressor. He's similar to Brad Keselowski from 2009 through 2014 until they had that fight with Jeff Gordon, Kevin Harvick on pit road at Texas there that year. And I think he's very similar in that type of mold, but he's also kind of got that same nice guy personality that Keselowski has to a degree. So um, you know why not? Come on, just do it. So that's what I think about Chastain there. So we'll see if he ends up embracing it or not. And we'll see, later on if any other drivers decide to start confronting him there. I mean, this incident here is fairly minor in terms of how it affected things and everything. We'll see, if he gets into it with the leader of the race or if he gets into it with Denny again. If he's putting up a front right now to make Denny think that they're past everything, and then later on he gets into it again with Denny just because, or some other driver. We'll see. But yeah, that's their rivalry right now with the field. Just take the villain role, and then I guess it's on everybody else to figure out how to race Ross Chastain. But yeah, the finish itself, shaping up to be pretty good. Larson and Hamlin were going after it the last 10 laps. Hamlin was starting to catch him leading into the last 10 laps and race the deficit, and it was just a matter of time for Hamlin figured out a way around him. Got past him with about 4 laps to go, and took the lead, but then, or got close to taking the lead, but then they ran into lap traffic there at the very end of the race, and then Hamlin wasn't able to get enough traction to get around him, around Larson, with about 4 or 3 laps to go there. So use the top. I liked how he was able to kind of charge the top lane and then kind of cut down in the center of the corner and go down about a half lane. And he was able to make up a lot of time in both corners doing that. Whereas Larson progressively got looser throughout the course of a corner or set of corners there. So yeah, I think Larson was definitely on edge there at the end, and if he had won that race, would have been pretty great piece of driving there, considering just how poorly he was handling in comparison to Denny Hamlin there at the very end of that race. So I think really the question is did Denny Hamlin just bump him out of the way, like with the intention to bump him out of the way and get around him, or was it just like just a case of Larson? Because Larson was already into the wall, he was kind of slowed down from that off the exit of turn two onto the backstretch, and then maybe Hamlin was trying to kind of get a side draft off of him, and maybe he was trying to change lanes or something, and then just got into more of a case of getting into rather than wrecking uh, Kyle Larson there. So um, I have not seen a onboard from Denny Hamlin's perspective, from the driver's cam or from the roof camera. So yeah, I feel like you need that to really understand what was the intent there. If he finished, or if he was trying to bump him out of the way, or just product more of hard racing or anything. So, yeah, that's how it is. And Larson, of course, last couple of weeks, after winning at Richmond, ends up i- in the fence in some way. Of course, Talladega, the roll cage exposed last week. Product of Ross Chastain's actions there, and then this one here touching the wall in the backstretch. So Larson, of course, has been pretty good, except last couple weeks had all these incidents. So sure, he might be a little bit frustrated that he hasn't been able to follow up the win that he had at Richmond with probably 3 races where he could have had a shot at potentially getting the win. But he does finish second to Toyota 1 year later after losing to Kurt Busch. Remember, they had their battle last year, and then this year battling with the 2311 owner at the end, and finishes in second here at Kansas spring race for the second year in a row. So Larson, of course, we'll move on, and we'll see, how he responds to Denny Hamlin. If they get into another late race scenario, how does he race his golfing buddy and friend off the track? So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it was a pretty good race. Of course, try to get into it with Gluck and even Dale Jr. on Twitter, because Mike Joyce just emphatically proclaimed that this was the best mile and a half, 400-mile race ever in NASCAR, and I was ready to challenge that one because I didn't believe it. because a lot of times when they try to say that, they're trying to shove that in your face, and there's probably some race from 1980 or so where they had a 400-mile race on a mile and a half track that had more lead changes, but I tried to look into that quickly on Racing Reference and couldn't find any evidence, so maybe that was L, I guess, for me there, and I quickly deleted my tweets because I wasn't gonna take any of the responses or whatever since I was wrong, I guess, on that one. But it was definitely felt like a case of them trying to see, we have the answers. This is best racing you've ever seen. Which, I mean, this race was good, but I don't like it when the media tries to basically toe the line, I guess, to a degree. So yeah, but it was a pretty good race, I think. Of course, a lot of cautions I think help with that statistic, with a lot of cars spinning and whatnot. But yeah, those Kansas proving that it seems like it's the best track for the next gen car in terms of racing on the track.
Yeah, I don't think that you were wrong by any means. I mean, whatever stats, it's hard for me to believe Racing Reference would actually be updated anyway, going back that far. Uh, when you talked about that, like I would always say like there was races at Atlanta for many years that were more memorable for many reasons. They may have not had as many lead changes per se, but I think Atlanta had a lot of great racing, especially in the old configuration, the old configuration. Um, there were some battles at Charlotte over the years, especially in the All Star race when it used to, or the Winston back in the day. And I mean, there are other ones I would say, but I mean, I think for them, they're grasping at straws because this season has been pretty bad in general, and they got a decent one in terms of all the restarts, as you said. I think when you don't have any horsepower and they're all basically packed up together with the big ass spoiler, you're gonna end up having that kind of racing. It's similar to the trucks, which we'll talk about here shortly, but um, I mean, it's fine. Denny Hamlin gets that win. I don't know what retribution Larson's going to do or try to do. He's not really exactly known for that sort of thing. Um, but I'm sure getting run into and twice by Denny Hamlin related vehicles in one race is probably not something he was keen on. Uh, Credit to Darrell Walsh Jr. to get up to fourth. I think he wanted more from his qualifying run. I think if he had gotten a little better starting spot, he would have been in a better place to actually compete for the win because his pit stops were really good. Um, Elliott moving up. Those two guys kind of show that there was a little bit of ability to move, albeit I think some of it was strategic in terms of taking two tires or going and changing sequences in terms of when they took tires, et cetera, et cetera. Um, if you look at some of these other guys, I mean, I said there was 22 cars on the lead lap. A lot of them drivers did score stage points. There's a few that had stage points but ended up being behind that. Of course, McDowell, who finished second in the second stage, and then had issues later on. Noah Gagson, we talked about, finished 29th, but he finished third in that second stage. Keebler Gibbs finished third in stage one, but ended up getting involved in a wreck. Kyle Busch got involved in a wreck and fell out. And then prior to that, Christopher Bell wrecked by himself. Uh, so in the end, those are two guys in Bell and Bush who have won this year, and Keebler Gibbs, who look like a pretty solid pick in recent weeks. He's kind of started to pick up his game a bit, but got himself caught out racing against Martin Truex Jr. and Martin Truex taught him a lesson. So I wonder how that'll work out at the or how that worked out at the competition meeting with Reverend Gibbs, but I guess we'll find out. The Gregson Chastain deal, they want to go, and if Gregson wants to do that, I mean, he's a publicity whore at the end of the day. I mean, he's 30 whatever in points. They've been god awful all year. Um, he's a douche. The fact is, this has been his MO anyways. If he's not gonna be a not compete, not be able to win, which was what he was kind of was the thing for a good amount of his Xfinity and truck career. Um, he's gonna go and make a show out of it. WWE, so he'll go in there and he'll fight people and act like he's some, you know, tough guy, Billy Bad Butt. But at the end of the day, he's a piece of shit, and he's only there because of one really good year in Xfinity and bringing money to the table. Albeit, to be fair, it's not like his sponsors are really on the car these days. I will say that I have to quantify that. I mean, there's a couple. I guess he brought Wendy's back into the sport, but some of the other daddy's money sponsorship, I guess, went away once his dad got put in jail. But I give credit to Ross Chastain with the Manny Pacquiao level hook that he got on Gagson. It was really quality punch. It's unfortunate that these security and whatever insist on doing that. I kind of wanted to see what was next. If he was going to go and call for a watermelon and just smash it on his head, that would have been good. I think really kind of because he's got that stupid haircut. He could have try to run right into Ross right in his like midsection. That might have been an interesting way to go. Probably would have gotten him in a concussion protocol, but there's a lot of potential there in that fight that we really won't know about. Um, I think there's, I think they could have a handicap match with how many people want to beat the crap out of Ross Chastain, but then on the other side, you'd have Justin Marks, you'd have Pitbull, whoever Pitbull knows in Miami, Daniel Suarez and all the amigos. I mean, he would have people, and then he'd have all his family, his farming family, out in wherever in Florida, Alva. So they probably go old school. So I think it would be a good wrestling match if they had that sort of thing at the All-Star race, like when Humpy Wheeler used to come up with all those great gimmicks. The points as we move to Darlington, this coming weekend. Let's look at that. Excuse me. I have to go and bring that up right there. So Ross Chastain is the overall points leader by 31 over Christopher Bell. Both Martin Truex and Denny Hamlin are 5 points behind Bell. So three of the four Gibbs cars, second, third, and fourth. Pretty solid, I'd have to say. And then you look, if you get further on, you have four Toyotas in the top six. Kevin Harvick, the lone Ford, kind of in there. Blaney, Larson, Byron, Keselowski, Logano, Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher, Richard, Alex Bowman, and Daniel Suarez are the top 16 now because Alex Bowman hasn't been in the car the last couple of weeks. He's not theoretically eligible. So that means Chase Briscoe is on the bump spot when you get into the whatever playoff point standings. You have what is it, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drivers who have won so far in 12 races. Three drivers who have won twice in Larson, Byron, and Bush. All three of the four guys on Gibbs, and then Tyler Reddick. So 4 of the 6 drivers in Toyotas have won so far this year as well. Only one, yeah, that's right. Only one Ford driver that has won this year. That's Joey Logano. And then you have other Fords in here: Harvick, Blaney, Brad, Busher, Bohr, and then Briscoe right now. But he's only 2 points ahead of Darrell Walls Jr. For that final spot. Gibbs lost some ground, lost a spot in points after his rough finish. McDowell rounds out the top 20. It was actually 19th, and Cindric is 20th in official points. Clyde moves himself into 29th in points. He's only a point behind Ryan Preece, who's run all 12 races. And then he's got a little bit of ground to make up on the 2 drivers for Colleague and Eric Almirola, Eric Jones, and the like. So both, I mean, obviously at the end of the day, Clyde and uh Clyde and Bowman are gonna have to win to get in the playoff. So that would at that point make 11. And then you look at some of these other guys who haven't won that won last year. Uh there it isn't doesn't have that same kind of feel in terms of the parity aspect of it, but it kind of looks like we're going to have a high number of different winners at this rate if it kind of continues down this path. So it's nearly halfway through the regular season, too. Got to keep that in mind. Um, Going into the truck series, the Heart of America 200 at Kansas Speedway. The trucks there, and then yeah, I took that over there. So saw Grant Enfinger get the victory, dominant figure there. Eighth Truck Series win for him. Ended up finishing in the top 5 in both stages. Led the most laps. Started 11th, so kind of shows that there was ability to move through the race. They only had 2 cautions to the first stage, then or they had 1 regular caution in both of the first 2 stages, 1 caution each. Then the stage breaks. Then it really started picking up. The big wreck that took place was Chase Purdy, Dean Thompson, Christian Eckes, who started on pole, Carson Hocevar and Chris Wright. They all, or no, not Chris Wright, number or D Burrito, all got involved in a wreck after a few laps after restart or on a restart. So took out some strong players. Ty Majeski uh, won a stage, but ended up finishing 25th, and there was more controversy connected to Ty Majeski in terms of, I guess, some comments made by one of his pit crew members. I'm not sure who they were addressed towards, but that particular pit crew member has had issues with conduct detrimental in the sport before. So something to keep an eye on, maybe as we go along. Purdy had gotten stage points in both stages. So did Rajah Caruth, who ended up getting involved in a wreck prior to that with Ty Majeski, Hocevar, and Eckes. So even Dean Thompson. So those guys all had a tough time out there. Enfinger gets the victory over Corey Heim, Zane Smith, Stuart Friesen, Ross Chastain. Nick Sanchez, Kyle Busch was the winner of stage 1. Jake Garcia, Taylor Gray, Tyler Ankrum round out the top 10. There were 12 trucks on the lead lap. Matt Crafton and Haley Deegan round out those trucks. Um, Tony Breidinger in her truck debut started 24th, finished 15th. And the Victoria's Secret Toyota. Um, some other people there trying to go through. Lawless Allen uh, came up from tailback and cut his deal in half there, finished 17th. Johnny Sauter in his first race for the 04 team finished 19th. The 22, just thinking about the fact that they're taking this week off, finished 24th. So they'll lose points in regards to the owners there. But Grant Finger gets the victory. Um, kind of gives himself puts himself in the mix for this Truck Series championship. It's not like he wasn't going to be in the mix, largely because he's one of the veteran drivers in this sport and has been at it a long time. Gives the regulars, as it stands now, three, four, five different winners. So half of the top 10 is filled with drivers who have won. Carson Hocevar is in with the win, but is 16th in points. So that is kind of an issue, but it also speaks to what the format is. So that I mean, we'll get into the points in more detail later on, but yeah, Finger goes and gets the win. He's only 15 points out of third place right now in points too. So starting to pick things up a little bit there, Josh, for Enfinger, the longtime veteran here in the Truck Series.
Yeah, of course, and not only for Grant Infinger picking it up, but I mean it's also a pretty big win for the organization for GMS. Of course, struggling in Cup right now with the Legacy Motor Club deal, but you still have GMS on the truck side, and they're kind of been quietly performing fairly well, and finally comes out here this past weekend. Grant Infinger getting the win, but with I think yeah, this race pretty interesting as well. A lot of I think a lot of the lead changes happened up front. Disappointing result for Ben Rhodes. Of course, I picked him. Finished 16th off the lead lap, one lap down, and led 17 laps. So he was up there for a bit, but ended up finishing in 16th place there. Kyle Busch, surprised honestly that he wasn't more competitive as well. Only led 11 laps this race, so I think we both, every time Kyle Busch is in a race in the Truck Series, think, he's automatically going to win or he's going to lead a chunk of the laps, and didn't do either of that. So it was a little bit surprising there, but shows, just how tough the Truck Series can be, of course. But yeah, Enfinger dominated this race pretty thoroughly and ended up winning. Of course, Zane Smith, who I think is probably going to be the favorite, for the championship, still chugging along. Of course, now he's tied with Ty Majeski currently in points, but I think Zane Smith, is still important to continue to score top fives and top tens, and still at least lead laps and maintain his level of competitiveness on a week to week basis. Of course, Korheim also got top five, and he's been up there, or finished second. So he's also been fairly good this year as well. So yeah, a lot of the regulars in the series ended up doing better than I think what we expected, and you also have some of the newer guys, some of the young guys in this series, continuing to uh, push along and get top fives like Corey Heim and Zane Smith. Of course, Ross Chastain finished in fifth uh, and got a good amount of racing in before the Cup race the next day. Sanchez sixth place, started and finished in sixth, so good result for him there. But yeah, Enfinger maybe making a move now to potentially position himself for the playoffs later in the year. But yeah, I think he's still got a long way to go for him to catch up to Zane Smith and really be a real threat. Because I think based on the schedule and based on how Zane Smith's been racing this year, I think he's gonna end up being the odds-on favorite again to repeat in this title. So we'll see how it goes, but he definitely has a challenger in Finger.
Considering how weird the truck schedule is and the variety of tracks that they run, Enfinger will just kind of be there. He'll grind out a finish as long as that thing's got all four wheels on it. So you can't count him out. He won at IRP last year. I think that was either on the edge of the playoffs or the first race of the playoff. So I mean, he picks and chooses his spots, and then when you consider GMS, like you said, Josh, there's, I mean, Daniel Dye has struggled most of the year. Raja Caruth has had his struggles as well. Probably had better runs than what his finishes show. So to get that victory, I think is definitely good for the organization. Of course, there's a lot of um, stuff changing there. They're going to Toyota, so I wonder how that'll work out. I would venture to say that the whatever Tricon garage situation that they have right there might just end up swapping out to GMS, which will probably screw up their whole deal. But it is what it is with that. But that's for later on in the year, I guess, for everybody to figure that out. Um, in terms of the truck series standings, Josh did mention Zane Smith, Ty Majeski tied for the points lead, but Zane Smith, of course, has two wins. In the playoff standings, Zane Smith, Corey Heim, Grant Enfinger, Christian Eckes, and Carson Hocevar make up the top five. Then Ty Majeski, Ben Rhodes, uh, Matt Crafton, Tanner Gray, and Nick Sanchez rounds out the top 10. So that means nine. So the guys that are inside the top 10 are all in there. Matt DiBurrito's the first driver out, 12 points out of the cutoff. Chase Purdy a further 6 points, so 18 points back overall. And then 21 back is Stuart Friesen. 24 back Jake Garcia, who hasn't even run every race. So credit to him for the performance he's had so far this year. I mean, Jake Garcia, in terms of the regular drivers, is sixth in average finish at 11.3. He has four top tens and seven starts, which is really solid. I mean, the only guys that are ahead of him are Enfinger, Rhodes, Heim, Zane Smith, and Ty Majeski, who are all right now reside in the top five of overall points. So Jake Garcia is running really, really well, and it's something to look at in terms of his viability later on in the season. I mean, Eckes has had more issues. I mean, he's won one race, he has two top fives, three top tens, but um, definitely had issues. He's had three DNFs so far. I mean, you look at all these other drivers that I mentioned. Heim has only fell out of one race so far this year, same as Jake Garcia, but the rest of them have finished every race. So that's something we're going to have to look at for Eckes and his overall viability later on this year. Nick Sanchez definitely has a lot of speed. Has been close a few times already towards that victory, but we're going to see how that goes. They'll be racing, of course, at Darlington, as I mentioned, next week amongst all three major NASCAR series. Grand Prix of Miami will take place next for the show, and really, there's a lot of pomp and circumstance and stuff that pissed off a lot of F1 purists. And but in the end, it was the same old, same old. It was fish lips with the victory at the Miami parking lot. Um, I mean, that's really what it is. Blah 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 blah. I'm trying to go through. Oh no, oh no, oh okay, whatever. They're talking about Miami running as a night race, which I mean, who really cares? Um, Verstappen would have beaten Perez on same strategy. Then why didn't you put him on the same strategy? Um, but whatever. And Verstappen gets the victory. I think what did they say it was his 38th career victory for Verstappen. So uh, I guess good on him. I'm trying to go and see if they even updated it here on this page. The answer is no. So yeah, I think they said it was his 38th career victory in Formula One, won by 5.384 seconds over his teammate and pole sitter for the race, Sergio Perez. And then they had a 21 second gap on Fernando Alonso, who finished third. George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, and Kevin Magnussen round out the top 10. Um, there were, yeah, so, yeah, and there are two retirements there, or no, not two retirements, two cars that were a lap down. So, um, 18 of the 20 cars finished on a lead lap. All the cars finished, et cetera, et cetera. But Verstappen, as I mentioned earlier, Josh had the hard tires to start because he was in ninth position, didn't really have a whole lot to go through to get towards the front. And then he was able to basically dictate how the race finished, and pass Sergio Perez late to get that victory and add to his points lead.
Yeah, of course, and yeah, I think Verstappen starting in ninth, there was able to drive through the field like a knife through or hot knife through butter. So, really, really easy for him to get that win. In this past weekend at Miami, of course. Um, I mean, it did kind of look a little bit interesting towards the end when he came in for his final pit stop and gave up the lead to his teammate there and gave the opportunity to at least see if there could be a chance for Sergio Perez to possibly defend his against his teammate. But Verstappen was able to make relatively quick work of Perez and get around him and go for the win. There's a few set of corners where Sergio was able to really defend, of course, Minister of Defense there, but just wasn't enough being on a different set of, he was on the hard tires at the end. And Verstappen, of course, had just changed tires and, of course, had better tires at that point. So, it was really easy there once he got around his teammate there. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell. I mean, I feel like maybe, if this was a different track, if this was the US Grand Prix and, where we have Coda having, the pavement worn out and old pavement, maybe there could have been a chance for, uh, Perez to play defense a little bit and try to hold them off and wear out Verstappen's tires and everything. But this is a brand new track still in terms of the pavement, so there's not really a whole lot there for Verstappen to wear out his tires by trying to drive hard to catch him. So really easy for Verstappen to go through his teammate there at the end. But yeah, I mean, fairly processional, but there was some good action, towards the end of the tail end of the midfield. The back half of the field there. I was paying attention to the Haas's in particular because of the free Chipotle promotion that they were doing. And at first, Nico Hulkenberg finished, he finished in 15th place, but he's up in the top 10 towards 8th place. And then Magnussen was also competing in the top 10 and ends up getting a 10th place finish there at the end. Um, so that was kind of interesting. Lewis, he started, pretty poorly. He was on, um, you know, finished or started 13th and got up to 6th in his car, which, was obviously not a very good handling car throughout most of the weekend, but was able to at least get a top 10 out of it. So, I think the tire strategy, even though, personally, I didn't feel there's, a whole lot of tire wear per se, at least, it made it somewhat interesting for positions to kind of change in the back half of the field. But at the end of the day, Verstappen still goes out there and dominates. But I think Alonso getting another podium, that's pretty interesting as well. The Ferraris, of course, had their issues throughout the weekend, but they are both able to get top tens in this one. And Tsunoda, even though he finished in 11th outside the points, still pretty good day considering where he qualified, going from 10th or from 22nd all the way up to 11th. So still good result there, even though if it doesn't always result in the points. So he's been pretty good in terms of being able to really maximize the result of the AlphaTauri car, which I think maybe some people might argue is one of the more slower cars on the grid this year. Uh, certainly in comparison to where they were in the past. But he's definitely been one of the better drivers really this season in terms of maximizing results. But yeah, I mean mostly processional Grand Prix for the most part. I think the F1 people, they're marketers, they're trying to market this, and then it seems like they're going to do it to the Las Vegas Grand Prix as well. But they're saying it's the greatest spectacle in motorsport, of course, which is an insult. I think it's a cheap shot. It's a little cheap jab there to IndyCar racing, um, which of course had a huge presence. Alex, not Albon, but uh, IndyCar champion. Uh, why Alex from see
What,
who?
Alex Palou
Yeah,
was a champion a couple
Pillow.
years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
and then,
He was there. Yeah, he was
uh
there at McLaren's pit stop the whole weekend, and actually, I think they labeled him as Pato Award on Friday.
nice.
Yeah,
That's good.
and
Yeah,
Pato,
that
yeah, he was out on the beach somewhere. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. And then Hinchtown was there as well, providing commentary for Sky Sports. But for F1 to go and do that, I mean, come on. We know who the greatest spectacle in racing is. It's been established as such for the past 107 years now. So, and we're going to see it in 2 weeks. So, give respect to the IndyCar guys who've given tons of respect to y'all. But I guess IndyCar got to start going the offensive here in terms of promotion and showing them why. And shout out to IndyCar on NBC for being able to at least do a quick response to that and show them on Twitter exactly why the Indy 500 is the greatest spectacle in racing. So, got to continue to show that and start putting up some competition against F1 because, of course, F1. I think the fans know it though, but they got to at least show them from the social media point as well to be able to fight and compete for TV time and respect and everything like that.
yeah, they had TV time. I mean, you brought up Hinch, Miss Hummer was there, promoting her right-wing conspiracies or whatever the hell she's promoting, or yoga or wine or some other thing that has nothing to do with racing, or knob gobbling, which is her best profession, I think. The race itself was a procession and a waste of time, but then we're just going to keep on going to that dump. So whatever. Um, I mean, I really don't understand what the point of what exercise we're trying to uh, accomplished by racing there, but that's just me. I mean, I go back and let's go and get into the points here. The standings as we move on to the Parmigiano Reggiano Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. Verstappen leads Perez by 14 points. Uh, for the best of the rest, Fernando Alonso's 19 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton in fourth, and then 31 ahead of Carlos Sainz, who's in fifth. Sainz, Russell, Leclerc separated by 6 points total. Hamilton, Sainz separated by 12. Then Lance Stroll in eighth. Lando Norris, last of the double digit point scorers so far, in ninth. Pierre Gasly in 10th, rounding that out. They show with a race with the um, Baku with the um, excuse me, the sprint race points and all that, but as it stands in Sergio Perez has won 2 races this year, while Max Verstappen's won 3, and I think he's finished second in the other 2 that he didn't win. So that's part of the difference versus Checo finishing fifth in Australia. That's the separation there. Fernando Alonso has finished third in 4 out of the 5 races so far this year. The one time he didn't was at Baku, where Leclerc got that position. Hamilton, second in Australia. Otherwise, fifth and sixth, and behind that uh, will that's the reason why he's there. Signs fell out of Australia. Explains part of his deal. Leclerc's fallen out of 2 out of the first 5 through first 3 before recovering with that podium and then a seventh on Sunday. And that's about it there. Russell has finished 4 out of the 5 races so far this year, fourth being the highest result for him. They're going to be hoping that this new upgrade that comes at Imola starts to fix the litany of issues that that car has so that they can actually compete, maybe, to do something in this championship. I think the real battle is with themselves, Ferrari and Aston Martin, largely because there's really no chance in hell that they're going to get to Red Bull unless a meteor hits the Red Bull factory or something. Um, we'll move on to the roundup here. Uh, Formula E ran at Monaco. It was a very active race. There was a lot of lead. There was a lot of passing, lead changes, proving that you can pass at Monaco. You just need electric cars to do it that are pretty narrow and go at a much slower speed. Uh, the Monaco race review sees Nick Cassidy get the victory after starting ninth and uh, beating fellow Jaguar powered, of course, factory Jaguar driver Mitch Evans and Avalanche Andretti driver Jake Dennis in third. So 2 Kiwis and a Brit there on the podium. Sasha Fenitraz, who started in second, and Jake Hughes, who started on pole, Nissan powered Nissan factory, and then the Nissan customer McLaren team, fourth and fifth. Dick Tantrum, John Eric Verne from 22nd to 7th, Sebastian Buemi, Cassidy's teammate, in eighth, Stoffel Van Dorn from 21st to 9th, and then former points leader Pascal Verline in 10th, all within 6.7 seconds. So credit to those guys. They'll be taking a month off before they go to Jakarta Indonesia for a double header, and then they will come to the United States for the first time and race in Portland, which should be pretty cool. Hopefully, it isn't raining, but we'll see what happens with that. The point standings after this race are now much have swapped around a bit. Uh, Nick Cassidy, with two consecutive victories and three podiums in the last four rounds, has taken over the points lead by 20 over Pascal Verline, who's led most of the year, I think. Then uh, Verline 5 points ahead of Jake Dennis and 7 points ahead of Mitch Evans. So four different teams represented. Two manufacturers, of course, with Jaguar and Porsche. The DS driver Jean-Eric Verne in fifth, former champion of this series, the first former champion of this series that's up there. He is 14 points out of second. Then there's a big gap between himself and former series champion Antonio Felix da Costa in the second factory Porsche. Sam Bird, Sebastian Buemi, Jake Hughes, and Rene Rast round out the top 10. Going into World Superbikes at Barcelona last week was more of the same, more of Alvaro Bautista domination at Catalunya, winning all three races and increasing his points lead. Raskat Lioku finished second in all three races. Through different riders in all three races. In the third step, Johnny Ray in race one, Super Pole race, Andrea Locatelli and Michael Ruben Rinaldi in race two. So the points right now see Alvaro Bautista up by the 69 points. And then over 103, he's 103 points so ahead of Andrea Locatelli and 136 points ahead of Johnny Ray in fourth. Garrett Gerloff is in 13th, just 2 points. He's 2 points out of Philip Odell and 5 points out of factory BMW rider Scott Redding. So he's the best BMW rider right now. That tells you where they're at. Unfortunately for Garrett Gerloff, there and that manufacturer not really bringing the pace. Hopefully that can change as the season goes on, though. The I didn't see. I forgot to say when the next round will be, but whatever. Get into F1 Academy. Didn't really talk about it when they were debuting a few weeks ago, but we'll kind of get through that here. They ran at Austria at the end of April, so I guess we'll say 2 weeks ago there. Marta Garcia won two out of the three rounds. Amna Al Kubasi uh, from the Emirates, United Arab Emirates, her and her sister racing in this was a winner of race two. Her sister Hamda won race one this past weekend at Valencia. Bianca Bustamante, the winner in race two, and Marta Garcia was the winner in race three. They will go 2 weeks time to Barcelona um, for the round three and those races. The standings right now see Marta Garcia leading by 26 over Hamda Al Kwabasi, uh, Nuria Marti in third, Bulher in fourth, and Amna Al Kabasi in fourth. Bianca Bustamante is in sixth. I'm trying to go through here and make sure there's only one driver that hasn't scored points so far this year, or so far in the 6 rounds, is Caceres. So that tells you how bad they are. Prema leading pretty solidly, um, 28 points ahead of MP Motorsport there. Um, Trying to go through and make sure. Yeah, Caceres is driving for uh, the Campos team, and yeah, so Spanish, and Caceres is from Uruguay, and Formula 4, and she raced. So she basically doesn't have any experience. That would explain it. Uh, just kind of going through. I want to make sure I'm checking in on who is where and what. I'm trying to make sure that yeah, Bustamante, Chung, Marta Garcia, at 3 years, yeah, she's considered a British driver. Okay, I don't think there are any American drivers on this grid compared to previous racing women's series where they've had at least one woman driver. They from America. They've not bothered to have the participation, I guess. And Jessica Edgar, yeah. So a lot of Brits, a Canadian, Megan Gilks is and she's 10th in points. So I guess she's the closest driver. So she's a looks like a driver for Aston Martin, really, with the green uniform, but whatever. Let's move forward to the MotoGP and Moto2 at Le Mans this coming weekend. They will, at the Bugatti circuit, of course, probably where they should run the French Grand Prix, for being honest. Pecco Bagnaia coming off of the win last round at and Jerez over Brad Binder and Jack Miller. The He currently leads the points in or yeah, he currently leads the points by 22 over Marco Bezzecchi, Binder in third, Miller in fourth, Maverick Vinales in fifth. It's a very tight battle, essentially from Jack Miller all the way to Franco Morbidelli in 12th is separated by 15 points. So that's a pretty big group of riders there, and you can separate that even further. You get 20 points between fourth and 13th. So a lot of movement that can take place as we move forward here as the season goes on. There'll be some fill-in riders again this weekend for the French Grand Prix. We'll let you know who those riders are, of course, um, at in France accordingly. In Moto 2, they riders or Moto 2, they got trying to get over here and figure where is that Moto 2. Trying to get over there because their website is the website trying to get through to see these different riders is pretty bad, or see the trying to get the information, let alone um the results. There you go. Whatever. Got that. Great. There. Okay. That's what I wanted. Last race, Moto 2, they were saw Sam Lowe's get the victory over Pedro Acosta and Alonso Lopez, Tony Arbolino, and Aaron Canet. The top five, Jake Dixon rounding out the top six. The championship standings for Moto 2 see Acosta tied with Arbolino, Aaron Canet in third, Alonso Lopez in fourth. Sam Lowe's with his win gets up to fifth. The points from 50, yeah. So Aaron Canet in third, to Jake Dixon in seventh is 16 points. 23 points to Somkiat Chantra, so from third to eighth there. Good battle, I guess, from fourth to seventh. Then you have another battle from eighth through to, I would say, all the way to 15th. Joe Roberts is 18th in points, only scored six so far this year. There's a bunch of riders that have not scored points, including the other American Sean Dillon Kelly, riding for the American Racing Team. Hopefully, they can get over the hump at IMSA will be back this weekend at Laguna Seca, saying for the 25th consecutive year. So, in some way, shape, or form, of course, all different series they've had. Uh, GTP will have 9 entries out of the 38 total. JDC Miller will be debuting their Porsche 963 uh, customer car. The usual suspects otherwise, the 2 Porsches, one Cadillac from Ganassi, and then the 1 Cadillac from Whelen Engineering. Then you have the 2 BMWs and then the 2 Acuras. In LMP2, there will be 8 teams. CrowdStrike by Racing by APR, Tower Motorsport, TDS Racing with 2 cars, Era Motorsport, High Class Racing. The Rick Ware Racing team will have one Juan Pablo Montoya driving. They are saying he's from Brazil, but he's from Colombia. So I don't know how that happened. He'll be working with Eric Lux he'll be driving in 3 rounds. This is the first of 3 races he'll drive with that team. And then the PR1 Matheson Motorsports 52 with Ben Keating. There will be 5 cars in GT Pro. The Corvette number 3, the FAP Motorsports Porsche, Vassar Sullivan Lexus, Harder Racing Aston, and the WeatherTech Racing Mercedes. In GT Daytona, they have the biggest list, of course, with 16. Let's see here. You got a couple, the 2 Turner BMWs. Andretti Autosport is actually entering a Aston Martin in this race with all their sponsors from LMP3 for Jared Andretti and Gabby Chavez, since Jared is a silver. Kelly Moss Racing, their 2 Porsches. And then you connect that with also the AO Racing Porsche number 80. Lamborghini will have representation from Forte Racing, Wright Motorsports. They'll also have a Porsche GT3 out there, number 77. Inception Racing McLaren, Gradient Racing Acura with Sheena Monk and Catherine Legg. Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, the Mercedes, Windward Racing Mercedes, Magnus Racing Aston, Korthoff Racing Mercedes, Harder Racing second car, their second Aston Martin, the Vassar Sullivan Lexus, and the Paul Miller Racing BMW. I'll let you know who wins there at Laguna Seca here on next week's episode. I'm trying to see who else is there. So yeah, Rally Portugal coming up. So the entry list, they said there's 90 cars in the entry list amongst I think 4 different classes. So we'll bring that up here and let you know. In terms of the Rally 1, there's 8 cars. There will be 3 cars from Hyundai, 3 cars from Toyota, and then the 2 Fords. Neuville, Danny Sordo, and Esapeka Lapi for Hyundai. For Toyota, the defending world champion Callie Rovampera, Effin Evans, and Takamoto Katsuda. And then the Fords will see former champion Otanek and Pierre-Louis Loubet. The Rally 2 category is very healthy and will be the deepest, I think, of the deepest part of the field, really. Or there are some Rally 4 and Rally 5, so I guess maybe that's wrong. But some of the names that people might remember from that are in Rally 2 at the moment: Oliver Solberg, formerly in World Rally Championship, along with Gus Greensmith, Timo Sunninen for Hyundai, so somebody that probably is on the cusp of moving up. Andreas Mikkelsen, Adrian Formeau, all those guys have been up there in the big cars, but currently are in the Rally 2 category. We'll go through some of these other drivers, anybody that really stands out to me, but doesn't really look like it. So it's a pavement rally. So different things in mind, trying to go and get, wanting to have better track position, not wanting to sweep the road for the other drivers still plays a role on pavement. Um, but you also want to make sure that, there, even if you're running later, that you're not driving into ditches either. So with some of the cuts that they have to make on these curves. Championship standings: former multi-time world champion Sebastian Ogier, who's only run 3 of the first 4 rounds and will be 3 of the first 5 rounds, but he's won twice so far this year. Efren Evans has won once and finished in the top 5 in all 4 races. Cali Rovampera making it a Toyota 123, 3 fourths and a second so far. Atanek, a winner, the only other winner so far in 2023 in his Ford. Basically all over the place in results. Neuville, the best of the Hyundais, in fifth. Lappy in sixth. Breen in seventh. Katsuda in eighth. Then Sordo and Liu Bei in ninth and 10th. Oliver Solberg actually is 11th in the World Championship, driving in WRC2. Gus Greensmith a point behind him. The next one would be Extreme E. There was a driver change announced, I think, earlier today for one of the teams. So things always changing in Extreme E. Andreas Backerud will be driving uh, for Jensen Button's outfit this weekend. Will be with Heda Hosas next round, competing all Norwegian as well as the remainder of 2023 campaign, replacing Heikki Kovalainen. So I think championship and competitiveness wise, it probably makes sense. The championship standings after one round sees Molly Taylor and Kevin Hansen driving for the Loach team, leading or tied with Layla Sands and Matthias Ekstrom for the Aconia Signs XC team. So then 15 points behind is the Rosberg team of Michaela Allen Kotulinski and Johan Christofferson. Fourth is the X44 Vita Carbon racing team of Christina Gutierrez and Fraser McConnell. The American duo of Amanda Sorensen and RJ Anderson for Hummer EV Ganassi. Fifth, and so on and so forth. Moving on, and we'll see how things go this weekend in the double race round that is now the new format of Extreme E. Indy next will be at Indianapolis Road Course this coming weekend. The info, whatever. Christian Rasmussen leads his teammates in points right now. The one win one of the two wins so far this year, and a pole, 86 points, 5 ahead of his teammate Nolan Siegel. Daniel Frost, a winner already this year, and is 15 points back of Rasmussen in third. And Jacob Abel, Ernie Francis round out the top five. Josh Green for HMD. So 5 of the top 6 are HMD. The first Andretti Autosport cars, Hunter McElray in 7. And then, yeah, you have something like first Cape Motorsports teams, Enam Ahmed in 10th. Adrian Andretti, Chadwick is 13th. Yeah, Jagger Jones, the Juncos Hollander driver Matteo Nannini is in 18th, formerly of the Formula One development ladder. Rasmus Lind and Josh Pearson rounding out the back there, um, going into this weekend at Indianapolis Road Course. So, speaking of Indianapolis Road Course, we have the the NTT IndyCar Series coming back this week. The GMR Grand Prix on Saturday afternoon, 3:30. Just to review the points, um, the sees Marcus Ericsson leading with 130 points, 3 ahead of Pato Award, 9 ahead of 2021 champion Alex Palou. 11 ahead of Scott McLaughlin, who's in fourth, coming off of a victory at Baba. Roman Grosjean, who's finished second in 2 of the races so far this year, and is in fifth. Or no, he didn't finish second last race, right? Am I remembering that wrong? Um, but whatever. Yeah, Newgarden, Will Powers, Scott Dixon, Kirkwood, and Colton Herta round out your top 10 in points. So yeah, Josh, I'll open it up to you. We've been talking for a while. Indy Road Course, they've been running at this place for a few years now. They've been doing it twice a year for a while. Um, so there's what I think I think the majority, 11 races or 13 races total at this racetrack. The best average finish is Will Power, of course, 5 times a winner there. Average start of 3.8, average finish of 6.3. Lundgaard has done well in limited starts. Scott Dixon and Graham Rehal are second and third amongst drivers who have ran every race there. Alexander Rossi actually is fourth, and Simon Pagenaud's fifth, but Rossi didn't run a couple of the races there, but kind of figure if you're double digit rounds, you're in the mix that way. So, yeah, what say you on the Indy Road Course this coming weekend as they lead into the month of May, Josh?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, it is the month of May, and we begin the month of May by going to the road course here at Indianapolis. But yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting because, of course, Penske has been pretty dominant over the years at this track. Of course, Will Power has the most wins on this road course. Scott Dixon has also been pretty well, even though he only has one win here. Newgarden and yeah, Newgarden and Pagenaud. Of course, Pagenaud is no longer with Penske, but uh, Newgarden has performed well at this racetrack as well. So I think Will Power has a really good shot at winning this race. Of course, this year, got one podium so far this year at Barber a week ago. Long Beach finished in sixth and seventh at St. Petersburg. So he's been doing fairly solidly in terms of street and road courses. Of course, podium last week at Barber, which I think is very key going to Indianapolis. And can't forget about Scott McLaughlin, of course, who has done, of course, won the previous race at and he's won the previous race at Barber. And I also think want to watch Romain Grosjean, who's been running fairly well this year and has been pretty good on the road course in general here at Indianapolis. Course first career pole in IndyCar, came here in the 51 back in 2021. So I think he's a really good shot. And honestly, I think that's who I'm gonna pick here this weekend. I'm gonna go with Romain Grosjean finally getting a career win, number one in IndyCar after 2 full-time years and the part-time year that he did in 21. I think he if he can win the pole or qualify, in the fast six, I think he has a good shot if he can get out front. Obviously, this is gonna be probably a track position race. Indy Road Course. Well, it's very technical road course with um, two really fast straights. So I think it's going to be really key to have good track position in this race this weekend. So yeah, I'll go with Roman as our or for me my winner. Wild card. Uh, Wild card. I want to go with. Uh, Marcus Armstrong is my wild card because he's done pretty well. Of course, got uh, 26th to 11th in Barber. So now, as he goes to Indianapolis, can he get his first career IndyCar top 10? Even though that's not actually a statistic, can he finish in the top 10 for the first time IndyCars this weekend? So it should be interesting though, and I think whoever wins this race may have a chance at winning. At the Indianapolis 500 gives you a lot of momentum. Of course, last year rain race with Colton Herta with that amazing highlight that he had in the S's off the long back straight on this road course, sliding and about crashed and spun out here a year ago in the wet. But it should be interesting regardless of that. And if it rains, it'll definitely make it more interesting in that respect. But yeah, looking to see if Roman can finally get his first win here in an IndyCar.
Both solid picks there. Uh, I mean, Roman Grosjean has been on the cusp of that victory, whether it's St. Pete or Baba a couple weeks ago. So it isn't a bad pick, as you mentioned, because of his previous experience and success at the Indy Road Course, a place where Andretti Autosport over the years has had some good pace, like Colton Hurd, as you mentioned last year, who won in the rain. For me, I'll just go with Will Power because coming off of that podium, most successful driver at this racetrack, the defending series champion, get himself on track with the victory here, become a what is it, the fifth different winner in 5 races. I think there's other guys. Of course, you have the Ganassi duo of Dixon and Pillow who haven't won. You have all the McLaren team of Award, Rossi, and Rosenquist. Of course, Rossi and Rosenquist are a bit buried. I think so. There's a lot of those are a lot of guys that haven't won so far. I'm trying to get the right momentum, as you said. Willpower makes a lot of sense to me as the choice to win there. Not because I wanted to pick him, but it just is the stats kind of speak to it. And I'm going to pick Green Rehal. Uh, Re as wild card because he's another guy that's done really well at uh, at Indy Road Course over the years. There's nothing to show for him to do this based on what he's done so far in 2023. Uh, I mean, I can't pick Lundgaard because there's been 27 drivers that have, or 26 drivers that have run every race so far this year. But I picked Renus VK last week, and that was a mistake. And I really don't feel great about picking a Meyer Shank car. So I think that's the next best scenario is picking Graham Rahal because really, what else? What the hell else do I have to lose in that sense? We'll see who comes out the winner though and gets that much needed momentum going into the Indianapolis 500 practice and qualifying week. Um, Time for NASCAR and the throwback weekend here at Darlington. They had I don't know why the size changed on this. What the heck? It looks like yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, so they changed something over here. Um there we'll go with trucks first. Darlington throwback scheme preview. We'll get the entry list up as well. So there will be 38 trucks for 36 spots. So two people will go home, or 37 for 36, since for whatever reason the AM Racing 22 was taken out of the field. You're going to have Dawson Cram, former guest of the show, driving the number 47 for G2G. Brennan Poole in the 46. You'll see Parker Kligerman running one of his limited races for the Henderson Motorsports team. Timmy Hill driving throwback to his dad, Will Byron in the 51, Chastain in the 41. Nobody announced in the 33 for Rayum Brothers Racing. Would assume it's Josh since he's been Josh Rayum. Maybe something if you were driving it, but not sure if you have a NASCAR license. But to be fair, I think it probably do better than Josh Rayum in his own vehicle. But that's beside the point. Uh, Nobody in the 20 as of yet, but that really doesn't matter. There's two other Cup guys. I mentioned Byron and Chastain. Corey LaJoy will be running the number 7 for Spire Motorsports as long as they can get qualifying lap down. And Darrell Wells Jr. will be driving the number 1 for Tricon Garage. Otherwise, generally speaking, it's the usual suspects in the truck series. In throwbacks, Nick Sanchez is doing a throwback to Mario Andretti's Daytona 500 win. He's driving a Chevy versus Mario Andretti driving a Ford, but they've kind of otherwise they've done their best to match the paint scheme pretty well and the lettering, and so I think their blue is probably a little lighter, but whatever. Beggars can't be choosers. Um, Dean Thompson is throwing back to Herman Quiroga. Okay. I mean, Herman Quiroga finished sixth in points back in 2014. Um, Mexico Series champion multiple times. So interesting one. Tricon continuing the Red Horse Racing throwbacks with Corey Heim driving the number 11 with the throwback to Timothy Peters, who used to drive that Red Horse 17 with red basically top and white sides. So that's what they're doing with the Safe Light Toyota this weekend. And then uh, what is it? Taylor Gray doing a throwback to Todd Bodine, and who ran for Red Horse Racing, and they're showing from, I guess, I don't know, Atlanta or some 1.5 mile racetrack back in 2012. Their Tundra Endeavor. So all right on that. Um, Christian Eckes and McAnally Hilgeman throwing back to class of 2023 Hall of Famer Herschel McGriff and the car that he drove in uh, the Pan America. So the number 52, he also Mexican Pan American road race. He also ran this number 52, drove it from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Darlington, South Carolina for the first Southern 500 and finished in the top 10, and then drove it right back, telling what stock car racing used to be. Legend Herschel McGriff, Raja Carew throwing back to, of course, Wendell Scott, 1973 scheme that Wendell Scott ran prior to the end of his driving career. The 30 of Ryan Vargas throwing back to Sean Woodside. Wow. And the what is that called? Why am I forgetting the name of that team? They were Brevac, the Brevac racing team. So um, that's an interesting one. So credit to him to find that. 1999 Winston West champion and seven-time winner in that series for Sean Woodside, and then he came over to the Truck Series. Jake Garcia throwing back to Buckshot Jones. Wow. That's great. I guess because I guess they're able to actually get Crown Fiber to sponsor them. So maybe, but that's fine. Daniel Dye, who has family connections to, of course, Mr. The King, which is why he runs a 43, and they're running a 70s Richard Petty throwback on that 43 Chevy. Lawless Allen throwing back to Adam Petty. So credit to him on that. On his number 45 truck, using the font of the numbers and the like. So pretty cool. Timmy Hill throwing back to Ted Musgrave and the Mopar Dodge, while Timmy Hill's driving a Toyota, but still utilizing the fonts and um, utilizing the color scheme and stuff. So credit to Timmy Hill and his family organization for that. I think that's the extent of it, unless that's what I see on J-Ski. I don't know if you know if there's anything else coming, Josh, but I think the vast majority of those paint schemes aren't bad. I think that, throwing back to old teams in the sport, like Red Horse Racing is cool. I think throwing back to former champions also is a great thing. So, while we're talking about this NASCAR 75 deal, wondering who else is going to get in, they announced Kevin Harvick today. Next week, of course, they're going to have everybody that's living on that list, the ones that are added, show up to Darlington. But probably you'd hope some of these truck guys get in. Like think they got Hornaday, but maybe they'll get Sprague in there, the like. So I think for the ones we've seen, I don't really see anything that's too god awful. Um, I think they're pretty solid. We'll see what comes later in the week if more of these teams actually do participate. I think it really ought to be a mandatory thing that they should participate and they should at least try to do something unique. I mean, at least on the truck side, it seems like they try a little harder um, in the Xfinity side than they do on the Cup side. But what are your thoughts on that? I guess I should make my picks because you went first for IndyCar, right?
Yeah.
So I'll make my picks for this race. I usually pick the 51. Not been right with that. I'll I'll go out and say, and this is really kind of out there. I would have to say, but I'm gonna go and take a real swing at this. Well, I was gonna take a swing at it, but I'm gonna pick Nick Sanchez. That's not the swing that I was gonna take. I'm gonna go and do it here in the wild card. Nick Sanchez is due. I would hope a throwback vehicle wins. Why not a throwback to Mario Andretti, who supposedly will be coming to Darlington this weekend? And the person who I pick as my wild card, largely because they're a part-time team, and if it rains, then they're not even going to be in the race. But if it doesn't rain, then they're going to run a lap quick enough, and they're usually very competitive. Be Corey LaJoy. It's a Truck Series race, very short race. He has plenty of experience at Darlington, especially driving on old tires. This is an opportunity for him to get a victory. Of course, he got that modified victory at Martinsville last fall, coming off the heels of Ryan Truex finally getting a win in the NASCAR's top three series. I think for Corey LaJoy is to be a huge opportunity in a moment if he could go and win at Darlington. I don't remember offhand if his dad won there. I kind of figure he did, but it'll be something for uh, Corey LaJoy if he's able to do that. What are you thinking, Josh, in regards to the Truck Series race at Darlington on Friday night?
Yeah, of course. Start off with the picks. So yeah, I mean, yeah, this weekend. I mean, of course, we got a couple of Cup guys coming down: Bubba Wallace, Corey LaJoy, Ross Chastain, William Byron, all Cup guys competing in this event. But not sure. I mean, I think William Byron probably has the best chance out of all those Cup guys to win. Although I think Corey LaJoy is a sneaky upset there as far as Cup guys. So I mean, it's a lot of ways that you could go with this, but I'm gonna go with let's see, go with Zane. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Zane Smith winning this weekend in the number 38 at Darlington. While we throw back to all these paint schemes throughout the weekend and generally have a throwback theme, let's have a look forward to the future, potentially in whether the Xfinity or the Cup Series. Someone who I think will have a good future, in NASCAR has been really good to start off in the Truck Series. That's Zane Smith. So I'll go with him. Current points leader, of course, in the series. Already has 2 wins this year. So let's see if he can get a third one here at Darlington, which, if obviously, if you can win at Darlington, you can win anywhere. And of course, it's a tough track. So even for the Truck Series, it's definitely a track that takes a lot of skill to be able to race on and win on. So that's who I pick for my winner. Wild card, I will actually pick Corey LaJoy as a wild card because, I mean, yeah, he's an Aspire car and number 7 in the Truck Series. They've been pretty good in Truck Series, but of course, he is um, he's only going for the trophy here in extra track time. So we'll go. Wild card there. I'd like to see, how does he do on a track that is really tough to race on, and something that it's not a restrictor plate track where you can easily run up front with the right draft, or even a road course where pit strategy you can end up being up front, but something where it's just really tough and takes a lot of skill and everything to be up front like that. So can he make a name? I mean, he's already trying to make a name for himself in the Cup Series, but can he at least put on or help contribute to putting on a show in the Truck Series here at Darlington? And as far as paint schemes, I mean, generally agree with you there. In the think the Truck Series, probably the lower the series you go, the more original that the paint schemes get, because they're, I think the sponsors, of course, not as big money as in the Cup Series and some of the Xfinity teams, so they're able to do a little bit more original stuff, or at least more true throwback schemes by keeping the theme as true to what they're throwing back to, without sponsors getting in the way. So I mean, the what we see on J Ski so far looks pretty nice. I mean, I do kind of find it a little bit humorous that you have an entire team, the Tricon Garage team, throwing back to um, a team that existed in the mid 2000s, 2010s in Red Horse Racing, um, and it does feel a little bit random, but at the same time, I mean, you can throw back to any era. I mean, you can throw back to even last year if you wanted to, but you know, those are some pretty interesting choices there. Um, I think Truck Series I think I like the Ted Musgrave throwback the best. That was a good car back in 2003. Of course, not a Toyota. I mean, Dodge is no longer in the series now, but interesting, choice there. I do like also the Nick Sanchez throwing back to Mario Andretti and the Bunnell Motor Co. Ford that Holman Moody had back in 1967. So that's a good one too. But yeah, it's see if any more teams come out and participate in the throwback. I mean, you can argue that William Byron's scheme is the throwback scheme because that's Ricky Hendrick's original scheme when he raced in trucks, all the way back in 2001, 2002. So technically that's one, but of course it's made regular now by Larson and by him in the Cup Series.
Yeah, that's true. We both picked the same wild card. You didn't pick Raja Caruth like you usually do, so we'll see what happens with Corey LaJoy. I guess we're doubling down on Corey LaJoy this week. That might be a first for him. I don't know if he listens to our show. I'm assuming he doesn't, but we have your back, Corey. We hope you can go out there and make us proud here on the Grip Strip podcast. Um, and you and Bono Mannion, a former winner at Darlington, with Martin Truex Jr. and the uh, Bush Series days, and Chance too. So who knows? Um, we'll move on to the Xfinity side, because I guess that we're just gonna, instead of best worst whatever. I mean, I do like the Nick Sanchez one for sure. Um, in terms of the ones that they had, and I mean, there's some unique ones. I definitely agree with the Ted Musgrave one, and he also did drive a Toyota at one time in his career. Assisted Brad Keselowski's rise the into NASCAR's Big Three series. So um, it doesn't. Let's see it to have Darlington entry list, Darlington race page. Right now there's 41 for 38. So I'm trying to get through, see if there's anybody who did withdraw. That's not, nobody has withdrawn. Sheldon Creed, I saw some of the schemes. Throwback to parade. Yeah. I saw it somewhere. I think it was on Twitter. Uh, Sheldon Creed is throwing back to Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer and all, Ron Hornaday, all those guys who drove the AC Delco number 2 for RCR. And then Austin Hill is doing a throwback to the days of Kevin Harvick and whoever else that drove the Coast Guard Chevy. So those are pretty cool. Um, in terms of outside of that, I'm trying to think around, look around and see, but let's just get some of this stuff out. So Spire Motorsports again trying to make the race, need to have no weather, of course, uh, for that. So Kevin Manion going to be working double duty, trying to get Carson Hocevar his first career Xfinity start. Ross Chastain will be driving the number 91, so he'll be doing triple duty this weekend. Um, Mentioned Austin Cram, he'll be driving in the 74 for Mike Harmon. Chad Fincham will be in the 66 for Carl Long. Matt Mills in the 53 for Emerling Gase. Sage Karam actually running this weekend in the Alpha Prime for Alpha Prime and the number 44. I don't know if CRC is a CRC brake clean, which there would be obvious ones to utilize. Joe Graff Jr. in the 38. Corey Heim will be in the 24 for Sam Hunt Racing. Ryan Truex running what supposedly will be his last race in the Xfinity Series in 2023, but I venture to think that's going to change after his win at Dover. Uh, what is it? Kyle Larson will actually be driving for Colleague Racing in a HendrickCars.com car, no less. Then I think Josh Berry, he's doing a throwback to Hut Strickland and the Stavola brothers. Um, I know that they had something in terms of the schemes. Ty Dillon will be running this weekend for RCR, running for Pop Pop in a Ferris commercial mowers number 3. So uh, pseudo throwback, I think. Um, I saw some pictures there of some of these cars, but I'm trying to see. Yeah, go to Xfinity. Uh, they haven't posted stuff. Oh, Darlington throw. So there you go. So yeah, the what is it? Cole Custer is throwing back to Jason Leffler and Haas Automation 00, utilizing the font, I think, to period correct. Scheme is period correct. The logo is bigger. It'll be on a Ford instead of a Chevy. Sam Mayer throwing back to Kurt Busch and the Sharpie scheme of the day back in, I think, 2003 or whatever. I mentioned Sheldon Creed's Kevin Harvick 2001 championship throwback. Ferris replicating the sponsor's first race in 2003. Okay. The the Justin Allgaier giving paying homage to Brandt going back to 70 years ago when they started. So that's a cool sponsor related one. The Tire Pros number 8, as I mentioned, for Josh Berry will be one. Throws back to Hutch Strickland. The Pilot Flying J number 18 for Sammy Smith is a throwback to their original logo, and it kind of has some uh, kind of reminds me of the Slim Fast number 18 that Greg Sachs drove in the Cup Series many years ago for Hendrick. Yeah, that's the throwback to for Austin Hill, um, for the Kevin Harvick when he won in 2006 championship. So both of them are Kevin Harvick related, and the Coast Guard scheme. Brett Moffitt actually throwing back to Tim Richmond. Interesting one there. And fire department coffee vintage fire truck scheme for uh, Chief Gralla, as it says on this door, but it's Kaz Gralla. Ryan Ellis throwing back to Kevin Harvick's 2005 Goodwrench scheme. Pretty cool looking car. That was a good scheme back in the day. And then I did mention Sage Karam running in CRC car, and he is throwing back to Pop Pop and the CRC High Performance Chemicals uh, car there from back in the day. So credit to Sage Karam. I didn't even know that was the case, but I kind of assumed, and it worked out. Jeffrey Earnhardt throwing back to his grandpa and the Wheaties paint scheme that he ran back in at the uh, all-star race to Winston back, what was it, 1997, and incorporating the lettering and the numbers and all of his current sponsors. So that's pretty cool. Um, what is it? Jeremy Clements throwing back to Jeff Bodine's Levi Garrett Chevy that he ran at Hendrick Motorsports. He usually has some interesting and good throwbacks. So credit to Jeremy Clements. Matt Mills is throwing back to Kirby the Love Bug. Okay, I guess. Um, what is it? Chad Fincham throwing back to late Eric McClure, who ran that hefty scheme. So see if they can make the race there with that. Oh, this is an interesting one by Dawson Cram throwing back to Bob Keselowski's Chrysler LeBaron back in the ARCA days. The number, I'm not so sure how accurate or period correct that number is, but the lettering, the fonts, incorporating all the other aspects of it from a Dodge to a Chevy. Good job by those guys. It's really cool. Bob Keselowski was literally the only person driving a Mopar vehicle full time in the ARCA circuit back in the day. That's pretty badass. So credit to them. And then Riley Herbst mentioned uh, offline to Josh running a Ken Block throwback, Monster Energy related, but also related to the late great Ken Block. Um, Honestly, that one I think not just because Dawson Cram's a former guest, but there's just something really cool about that Mopar scheme and those colors and the way they look. It's just a really good job by them. Um, outside of that, I mean, there are a bunch that I definitely, a few that I really think are cool, but I think that's the one that stands out to me. I don't really see anything that's like super weak that has been shown so far. I think a lot going to guys that have recently retired or are going to retire in Kevin Harvick. So throwing back to him, I think is pretty good. What are your thoughts on those schemes, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, even
And your picks.
yeah, picks. I'll do picks here in a minute, but I mean, just to keep talking about the paint schemes themselves here this weekend. I mean, yeah, most of these paint schemes are pretty good. Not really a fan of the seven. I don't really. I mean, it's throwing back. It's inspired by themselves, but I mean, it's also not throwing back to anything in particular there. But yeah, I like the double zero. I mean, they're throwing back to the original double zero from '04 there. So that's a good pick. And Kay Adams here on the Lakers and Warriors on the TV on the side. But anyway, that's a good scheme because it's basically the original car, original sponsor, and everything. So that's a good one there. I like the number one throwback to Kurt Busch, his first paint scheme in back in '01 once they picked up Sharpie sponsorship. The two pretty nice as well. Just in general, the the paint scheme there is really fitting to the '01 car from Harvick. But I mean, being Willian, being a sponsor, you could also throw back to the old number 31 Whelen car from back in the day. Although I get the theme going to throw back to Harvick. So um, uh, that's a good one there too. So definitely like it and it fits. Um, number 8 throwing back to Hutch Strickland. That's one good one too. 21 throwing back to the '06 uh, 21 car from Harvick with the Coast Guard sponsorship. Also really nice there. Tim Richmond throwback. Brett Moffitt doing it's pretty good. Um, The number 43, uh, 2005 Good Wrench car is pretty nice as well. Going with the Quicksilver theme there too. Also, would have liked to have seen. So if you go back to '03, Harvick ran a red aggressively schemed, so the same colors or paint scheme design, but the color scheme in '03 they ran at the shootout, and the last race of the year was red with silver. That one was cool as well. It's one of my favorite paint schemes from that year. Number 44 thrown back to Richard Childress, also nice. And then Jeffrey Earnhardt throwing back to Dale Earnhardt 1997 Wheaties car, pretty cool as well. uh, and then, of course, the um, former guest Dawson Cram throwing back to uh, the number 29 from Bob Keselowski. He ain't gonna kill my boy. Also, really nice there. And I do like the tribute to Ken Block, of course. So it brings us to the picks for this weekend. Honestly, I'm gonna go Kyle Larson here, picking him to win the race. Uh, I think he has a good shot in the number 10, which seems like it's the all-star car for Colic this year. But I like him in the number 10 this weekend. Um, he's gonna go be a good challenge against John Hunter Nemechek, who's been really good this year so far. In Joe Gibbs number 20, Ryan Truex also racing again this weekend. So can he back up his win at Dover with a good top 10 run at least, or a top 5? That'd be interesting to see there. I think wild card. Let's see. We'll go. You know what? We'll go wild card. Um, I want to see. I want to see what Jeffrey Earnhardt can do. We'll go with him. The Dale Earnhardt theme this weekend. Want to see what he can do. In the 45. On a good track when it comes to tire wear. That can help some of the smaller teams. So I'll go with Jeffrey Earnhardt as my wild card pick this weekend.
Yep. So, all good there. I mean, I get the picking Larson there with the veteran experience, and over the years, he's been really, really good at Darlington. So, oh, that'll help. Yeah, she does work in LA these days, uh, doing looking all hot and stuff. Um, I'm gonna go and pick Sheldon Creed because Sheldon Creed last year had a really dominant car in the fall and was a couple laps away actually from winning the race. And he has been good at Darlington over the in his truck career, and um, I think it's a track that kind of suits Sheldon Creed because of how rough it is, and going back to his off-road background, finally getting that elusive first career Xfinity victory. I think that would be great. Doing a throwback to Harv, going and throwing back to that championship. Of course, the number's still the same, but Wheel and Engineering going and allowing that. So credit to them. Wild card pick for me. Uh, have to go back to the entry list. Um, wild card pick. Uh, because I probably would have to go into the point standings really, to make a full on decision. That's what I'll do. Um, ugh, man, guess I ate too much junk earlier. Ugh. Um, trying to get through all these. So yeah, 17. What is it? 22, 23, 24, 25. So 13. Oh, so that actually kind of fell in my lap. I'll pick Parker Kligerman because he just dropped out of the top half of the um, points because of recent run of bad luck. Getting wrecked early, of course, at Dover didn't help his cause either. But he's running the truck race. I think over the years, I think he has plenty of experience at Darlington. The that team, the Big Machine team, I think wants to get back on their horse and get back into the playoff mix. So I'm going to pick. So yeah, Creed to win and Kligerman as wild card. All right. Last but not least is the Cup Series, and prepare to be somewhat disappointed with some of these. 36 for 36. The only, I mean, well, Poole was in the 15 last week. Um, was it? Yeah, Barry's back in the still in the 48. No Neck is going to be in the 51. So that's a throwback all in itself. The fact that No Neck is back in a cup car. We'll go through the sponsors: Worldwide Express, UPS for Ross Chastain, the points leader, Freightliner for Austin Cindric, nothing announced for Austin Dillon. Sunny Delight will be on Kevin Harvick's car. HendrickCars.com for Larson, but they're saying it's a throwback. Castrol GTX for Brad Keselowski. Nations Guard for Corey LaJoy. Lucas Oil for Kyle Busch. Lumar window film for William Clyde Elliott II. If you're going to run Lumar window films, can't you throw back to when they were on a Busch car? Maybe. I don't know. That's going to be the one I'm going to go off on, even though it's a simple scheme and it's his dad, and I loved it when it was his dad's car. But Federal Express, not FedEx, on Denny Hamlin. uh, Menards and Dutch Boy. That one's another one that I kind of have an issue with. Chase Briscoe's one is another one. BTS Tire and Wheel Distributors on AJ Allmendinger's. 16, Busher has nothing listed. Bell has nothing listed for a sponsor. Auto Owners Insurance, so Martin Truex is punting per usual. Harrison Burton's, yeah. Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, Will Byron, yeah, that's another one. Justin Haley, Michael McDowell, stagefront.vip, whatever the hell that is. Todd Gillen driving serial1.com e-bikes, a throwback to current NASCAR official Elton Sawyer. Ryan Preece back with his United Rentals. Forward together on the 45 for Tyler Reddick. Kroger and Country Crock for O. Richard. Keebler Gibbs as Shriners Children's Hospital. Ty Dillon, Honest Charlie Speed Shop, whatever the hell that is. EJ McLeod, Daily Downforce, and then Daniel Suarez with Quaker State. But, and we'll start with that. I'm going to go backwards to forwards because that one is one I like. That one is one that really is period correct. They went with the numbers. It looks like the old King Racing 26 Quaker State, GM product. It was a Buick for a lot of years. And when they came along, they ran Buicks because, of course, Kenny Bernstein ran Buicks. Then he ran Fords. Eventually, the Quaker State team changed to a Ford when King Racing was still around. But I like it. Nice, clean, simple, really nice job by them and utilizing one of their, of course, sponsors in a good way. Shriners, so Keebler Gibbs, um, going and honor Joe Gibbs induction to the NASCAR Hall of Fame by because he ran the Pro Football Hall of Fame scheme with the Redskins colors uh, with Bobby Labonte back in '95. Okay, all right. So throwback to his dad or grandfather. Alex Bowman, but it'll be Josh Berry throwing back to his spotter Kevin Hamlin, who drove back in the day for Ganassi in a Texaco number 42 back in those days. In this case, it'll be the 48. So a pseudo Davey Allison throwback there as well. The Kroger Country Crock 47 has um, kind of intonations to Dale Jarrett because it has the UPS colors. So that's okay, I guess, but nothing spectacular. They go also, what is it? LMC goes Eric Jones, two-time winner of the Southern 500, uh, throwing back to 1968 with Mr. the King, minus the stupid black roof. But they used the lettering that they had, the Chrysler lettering, Legion, and then on the quarter panels, and they use a kind of two-tone color, the lighter blue on the front and rear fascias. Um, what is it? Bowl cut moron will be driving a Jimmy Johnson 2014 Coca-Cola 600. So I'm going to work under the assumption he won in that scheme. I would hope to justify it. But it's bright yellow numbers for the 42, and that actually looks clean. You got to give credit to that. Um, going and is Jeff Priest late model scheme with Burnham boilers, and his son Ryan will be driving the number 41, and it's clean, it's simple. That darker blue on the roof and the numbers, but otherwise it's a pretty simple white around the rest of the car. So one for dad there for Ryan Priest. Can't really get mad about it because at least it's something that it's not a something that we've seen Ryan Priest do in general, but it's not like how many chances has he had. Todd Gilliland doing a throwback to the Barbasol Fords of yesteryear with Elton Sawyer. That lighter blue scheme doesn't fit what they show in those pictures, but they utilize the lighter blue as the years went on with the Barbasol car. The William Byron cars, the chrome illusion deal there, the number being up front, leaving all the space, just makes it look even worse. The Penske 22 Joey Logano's throwing back to the AMC Matador um, with Mark Donahue. So yeah, that one that's clean. Penske, the whole bit. So uh, what is it? The Harrison Burton throwing back to his dad again with another X side scheme. Um, he says the Christopher Bell throwback is to Matt Kenseth. From what year Matt Kenseth, I don't know, but it's Matt Kenseth.
It's 2003.
Okay. 2003 championship. Okay, now that makes sense. All right, fine. Good. Chase Briscoe's throwback is from the Turkey Night Grand Prix winning midget that Tony Stewart drove for Steve Lewis and Bob East. There, the number always had the nines or whatever with those cars and Ford power plant, but he drove that even though he was driving a Pontiac. So, okay. Hopefully, the Flames help with horsepower and ability to drive forward. Uh, but I kind of was confused by it initially, and then they explained it. I'm like, all right. They are saying that Ryan Blaney is running a throwback to his dad's Vivrin World of Outlaws sprint car that he won uh, through the years. He ran for many years for Casey Luna's Ford team and eventually won the 1995 World of Outlaws championship. Uh, I don't think it's accurate, really, um, because the yellow, of course, is wrong because it's Menards, whatever highlighter yellow, and then the blue is too light, but maybe it looks darker when we get to the racetrack. I don't think that was the best job by them, but then it's not like Menards has ever been known for making great throwbacks either. Even though they have all this paint, all these colors, they can't even match the damn colors right. Eric Almirola is throwing back to the 2001 Dale Jr. car. Um, all right. And then Kevin, a nine car isn't being shown, but Clyde is throwing back to his dad's uh, Evernham Dodge scheme for his. And then sponsored by Sunny Delight, Kevin Harvick's story scheme will be a nod to planned Cup Series debut AOL scheme before he drove the number 29. Okay. I mean, I guess because of the streak. Okay. It's a bit of a, I guess. All right. I mean, I'm a sucker for the old school lettering, the Sunny Delight lettering and the logo and stuff. And I've anytime there's been a Sunny D car, I've kind of been a mark for it because those cars always generally did look good the last few years. Though Richard, when he first brought it back into the sport, so credit to old Harv. My God, look at how young that dweeb looked. Um, and then we have Ross Chastain essentially driving a Napa, or I mean UPS sponsored uh, Chevy. When of course Dale Jarrett drove the UPS Ford for many years. It's a great connection because Worldwide Express is a authorized reseller and connected with UPS. So good job by them. One that actually really does have validity. So good on Ross Chastain and Trackhouse on that scheme. Um, I'll um, I'll go first here. I think I was supposed to go first with um, or no, I went first with trucks, then you went first. So actually, yeah, now it actually makes sense. So we did go in order. I'm gonna go Darlington. I am going to go with. I'm gonna go with Larson. Kind of makes me nauseous, but I'm gonna go with Larson to win. And my wild card is gonna be Eric Jones. I mentioned why the guy won at Darlington last fall. There's nothing that they've really done this year that would make you figure that that's possible to repeat that kind of result. But, at some point, the luck has to change, right? And why wouldn't you do it at one of Eric Jones' best racetracks at Darlington? So I'm going to go and reduce that right there. And I will go and add my picks to Cup Series at Darlington. Um, Phil picks Larson to win, and that Jones boy as wild card. Josh, you get to close the previews and picks. Give your thoughts on the schemes before you can move on to your sim segment.
And of course, I think for picks, uh, I'm gonna go with Kevin Harvick here winning at Darlington. I think he's due for a win, and he's won here before. Won the first race back from COVID, all the way back in 2020. Um, in the first race, after that. So, at this track, so I'll pick him to win. I think he's just due for a win, and I think with given Darlington could see a different winner this weekend than what we've been seeing as of late in the Cup Series. In terms of Hendrick versus Gibbs and Toyotas, as it's kind of been lately. So let's see if we can get a Ford here to finally win. Um, and he'll finally get his at least get one win here in his final season, of course. Wild card, wild card. I want to go. Let's see. Let's see here. Wild card. This is tough. Uh, I need the standings because I'm gonna make a mistake if I don't, and I'm gonna have to pick from top. It's top 25 or top 20 in the standings, and below or below 20th. Right? That's the
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's let me go back. Let's go into the point standings. It's based on how many drivers have ran every race. So essentially, that's not where I wanted to go. Driver points is where I do. So what? 14 plus another, what is it? 14 plus 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 31 drivers. So uh works out to, I think, have everybody outside of the playoff, um, which means basically anybody outside of Chase Briscoe
yeah. Well,
after Chase Briscoe.
I'm gonna go wild card with uh Eric Almirola in the number 10. I'm not really a fan of the paint scheme actually. I mean, it is the Dale Jr. 2001 throwback, but it just for some reason it just doesn't fit really, and I feel like they didn't really do that great of a job on the throwback itself. But he's another driver who needs a good result here, and he's been has only had one top 10 to start off in this season and everything. But I think if Harvick does well in a Stuart Haas racing car this weekend and has a chance at winning, then uh, I'd certainly see that Eric Almirola has a shot at getting a good finish here this weekend, and did finish 11th place last year in this race, which is his best career, or well, second best finish. He finished seventh and ninth in 2020. So maybe they Stuart Haas throws it back to 2020 when they were winning races in this series. So we'll see. Um, yeah, I think the schemes themselves, I think, the best one I think is the best pair is the track house. I think, last year they really hit a home run with the throwing it back to the Dale Senior and Dale Junior Coke cars, and it's going to be really hard to top that one. But these are some pretty solid ones as well with the UPS Dale Jarrett throwback and uh, the you know Kenny Burn, the King Racing 26 and Quaker State with Daniel Suarez running in the 99, both very true to form there. Although I will say that, kind of wish we saw, because this is the 2001 UPS car, and then Stenhouse is also throwing back to the 2001 UPS car. Would have liked to have seen at least a difference in one of those, with one of them being the 2002 2004 era of UPS, with instead of the yellow stripes on there, they had the lightning bolts instead, which I thought made it a little bit cooler uh, in terms of paint scheme. But both of them very very good, and would not have known Worldwide Express as authorized reseller UPS. So somehow Justin Marks has been able to get in some really really good throwbacks. His first couple of years here running in NASCAR with Trackhouse Racing. So yeah, I mean, Cup Series not quite as good in throwbacks, but that's to be expected because the corporate sponsors. Although Penske, I think they had a really good one there as well with Joey Logano throwing back to the AMC Matador, their first car that they ran in Cup with Mark Donahue back in the day, the Flying Brick there. So yeah, of course we'll go ahead and go into the sim racing segment. Of course, yeah, of course last week, what I did run, pulling up what I did do a little bit of IndyCar racing at Homestead, just one really, Brandon Homestead, and it was a little bit tough. Kind of struggled on pace a little bit there, but managed to finish in eighth place in that one. Struggled a little bit on pace, just because like I think the IndyCar just feel like it uh ran out of uh pace there in terms of speed, um and I think need to be a little bit better in terms of handling as well. It seems like Homestead's a little bit tougher on the IndyCar, just because I think it's so short, uh, and the power band and everything. I think maybe with fixed setup series, really got to nail it in the corners. Uh, and let me give you my pick. I'll type that really quick here. Uh, There you go. Harvick and Almirola, winner and wild card there. And ran the Formula Fords at Redskin Motor Center, which actually surprisingly did fairly well and never raced there or practiced there before, and came out in fourth place in that series. So yeah, that was what I did last week in iRacing, and I think this week be a little bit, try to get a little bit more uh, activity on there. Of course, we have all three racing NASCAR series at Darlington. So I think maybe I'll finally try to run at Darlington. Never really ran there in the past, so maybe I'll try to finally do something there. It's a good track. Just have never really bothered too much with it. But I think it's a track that I feel like maybe my style probably fits well at. So probably should try running there finally. All three series running there this weekend. Gen 4 Cup uh, so that's basically, I mean, they should be running at Darlington. I don't know why they're not, but running at Talladega this weekend. So that's also going to be a bit of a throwback in terms of the Gen 4 cars and restrictor plate racing from back in the day. Got that. Then you also have the on the road side of things. You also have uh, IndyCar. Well, not Indy cars, but the Indy Pro 2000s racing at Long Beach. So that should be interesting as well. You got the BMW Sim Cup racing at Watkins Glen on the boot side. So that should be interesting. You got let's see what else on the road side. You've got Formula 3 racing at Imola. You've got also the Formula 1 cars racing at Imola. Um, the Dallara IR01s competing at Silverstone on the oval side. Dallara IR01s competing at Auto Club Speedway. So that should be similar to, in terms of racing, similar in speed, similar to the kart series. So going to be reaching 250 miles an hour in the draft, so might want to try out that one. See how that runs. No cautions as well, so should be interesting in terms of being able to keep it up front and keep it off the wall and keep it pointing in the right direction. There, uh, you've got production car sim lab challenge, the 25-minute D class series, racing at Summit Point. So that should be a good one. Solid race there, always a good series, and also MX5s at the MX5 series also at Summit Point Raceway as well. GR86 at Okayama Speedway International Circuit. So definitely like running at that track. So I'd probably hit up that series as well. And then I think you've got the Formula Fords at Oulton Park this week, so that should be good racing there, good series as well, and got the Spec Racer series also at the Homestead Miami Road Course, so it should be with the SCCA series, so that should be a good solid racing series there. And I mentioned the Indy Indy Pro 2000s at Long Beach, so might want to try that one out as well, and try to get one in at Long Beach there. So yeah, of course, always lots of choices on on IndyCar or well on iRacing, and being able to go between oval and road series, and then of course dirt stuff as well that they have. They offer a lot in terms of diversity, so always you know good series, good game to be able to participate in different types of classes on the sim side, and definitely helps at least with racecraft in terms of real life racing and being able to practice your tactics online and virtually versus in learning the different courses as well compared to running in real life. So always good there. And if I do stream, which I try to from time to time, you can find that at Twitch TV/ usailor2, and go on there and see when I'll alert when I do try to stream, um and everything. And again, coming up, in the next couple months, got the Firecracker 400, so I'll definitely try to attempt that one, hopefully. And I think I might be able to actually, so definitely go on there and try that one out. And hopefully be able to race against Dale Earnhardt Jr. When as I think he's going to try to race that one as well. So looking forward to competing against top names in sim racing, and along with some of the legends and current top NASCAR drivers that have play iRacing on the regular. So looking forward to that. And of course, follow myself on Twitter at JP Huffine. Go in there and see what I have to say, and see what I like to share regarding the series, regarding my other interests, and regarding football. We got the schedule coming out here tentatively on Thursday, so looking forward to seeing how many night games Jacksonville Jaguars have to get. Hopefully, they get at least two games. I think hopefully one of them's on Sunday Night Football. They have not been on Sunday Night Football since 2008, so officially. So looking forward to seeing if NBC finally gets them in front of the entire country and everything. So looking forward to that. Of course, and I'll definitely have my takes when that happens, so you can see that there. So of course, you can follow the video podcast at YouTube on Gripshare Podcast. Go on there and like our videos and comment and subscribe to our page, and definitely be on lookout for our next upload. And we'll definitely have this episode out here pretty soon, so you can go and digest everything that we just talked about and be able to listen and or watch on YouTube, and if that's your desired means. So definitely enjoy being able to go over it with you, and definitely looking at all these sweet paint schemes that we'll see this weekend on TV. Um, and hopefully we get a good race this weekend here at Darlington, and of course also at Indianapolis for the IndyCar Road Course race there this weekend. So definitely being able to talk about it with you. And thanks as always, Phil, for being able to have this opportunity to go over everything and be able to discuss and have a good discussion about all the racing that we see every week.
Absolutely, man. Wouldn't do it with anybody else. Been doing this for plus years now, so we've got something good going here. So let's keep it going. For Thanks for everything you do on the back end, of course, with the video side, with the YouTube page, and also um, with the promotion on that, and then also getting us going here on our Discord, helping with the technical difficulties like we had last week, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely a big part of the deal, no matter and also like can contribute elsewhere on different shows like the Grid Talk podcast. Prior to me going into our deal, there was on the Grid Talk post race show for Miami this past weekend. Shout out to the Grid Talk crew. You can find me at Philip G Matthew on Twitter. You can find me at Philip G Matthew 28 on Insta, posting usually bowling stuff like I did this past weekend after Whirlwind Bowling Week. You could find us at Grip Strip Pod on Twitter, and where you can generally see our posts there on the shows, philipgmatthew.com. The show goes over there. Basically, if you know there, if there's somewhere where there is podcasts, you'll find the Grip Strip podcast. So with that, we will move to episode 169 next weekend or next week for the GSP, recapping the throwback weekend at Darlington, GMR Grand Prix of Indy, um, and all the other racing in the roundup taking place this coming weekend, and then previewing Formula One, the Parmigiano Reggiano Grand Prix at Imola, and Indy qualifying and practice and stuff. And then you'll have the All Star race coming up at North Wilkesboro. Who would have thought? Back in 1996, they closed the place, and now, what is it? 27 years later, they're going to be hosting the All Star race next week there. So, pretty big deal. Cars Tour going to have a prelim night, which will have a lot of cup drivers in it. So, that's going to be a hard main to make for sure. So, we'll get into all that next week on the GSP. So, for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for everyone for listening, supporting, liking, and subscribing, and let your friends know about us. We do this; it's a passion deal for us. So hopefully, you can go and let somebody know so they can go listen as well. With that, I'll be back next week. Take care, bless, and goodbye.